I'm excited to bring a friend in today, Michelle McCullough, who's going to help us understand how to get spousal support for your business. You know that I like to bring my friends to Live on Purpose TV. Michelle, welcome.
Excited to be here.
This is Michelle McCullough. She is not only my friend, and we've known each other for a while now, primarily through the speaking industry. We're part of the National Speakers Association, where Michelle is coming in as our new president of our chapter. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And she's an expert on business development, the use of social media in your business. You're an entrepreneur. And you figured some things out, haven't you?
I have.
What we're talking about today has to do with getting our significant other, our spouse, our partner, on board with what our business idea is or where we want to go to create value in this world. And you're the person I thought of.
Oh, well, that's
You've got some experience there. What can you tell us?
Well, I think that I've navigated some challenges, and the truth be told, I have come to some answers here because I've hit some bumps in the road. You know how you come along and you're getting really excited and then you hit a speed bump? Well, in my case, sometimes they're like really big, like stop bumps, and then you have to start over.
Like launch you into the air kind
Absolutely,
of speed bumps.
like totally reevaluate. But I started my first business when I was 19 years old. And so for a long time, I operated solo, and I was able to do things the way that I wanted to do them. And then when I got married, things changed a little bit differently, and I had to start communicating what I was doing, and I had to start communicating the things that were happening, and that became a little bit difficult sometimes. I'm going to be super honest, but I think we figured some things out because my husband is driven by the things that you can understand and that are secure and that are logical, regular paychecks, regular times, regular jobs. And I am all about having it go free flow. Sometimes money comes in abundantly. Sometimes it's not so abundant, but I'm good with it because I love the way that I build my business. And so we figured some things out in ways that we communicate, but then in also the ways that I operate that keep him in mind, but then also make sure that he's supporting me at the highest optimum levels.
Once you add another person to the dynamic, it changes everything, doesn't it?
You can have the best idea in the world and think that you can do it, and then someone else is like, whoa, put on the brakes.
You know, Michelle, as you were talking, I was noticing I've had some similar experiences because Vicki and I have very different ways of thinking.
Sure.
And you know what, folks? This is a good thing. Differences are what make us relevant and interesting to each other. So don't be surprised if you and your spouse have totally different ways of thinking. That's probably good.
It is.
If you were both exactly the same, one of you would be unnecessary. So we want the differences, but differences also create conflicts.
Right.
And it's just because of these different perceptions or preferences or ideas about how things should run. And you know what? We come by it naturally.
Yes.
I mean, we're trained, taught, and educated. Starting as little kids, we get trained in a system. And you might think about your own parents or about your spouse's parents and how they handled certain things. And big surprise, some of those same patterns start to bubble up. But Michelle, you're talking about some solutions that you've been able to find too. Communication, I heard you mention that.
Yes.
Ways to deal with this conflict that can be productive instead of something that tears the relationship apart. Do you believe that it could be used productively?
Absolutely. I realized moving into different challenges and different businesses and even going after specific goals that were important for me, that I started operating assumptively rather than enrollingly. And so I would assume that my husband hearing me say, hey, I've got this big event, or I'm doing this business, or I'm writing this book, or I'm doing this, that he would just hear that and assume a role as a champion, and that he would step in and say, how can I help?
Just bring his pom-poms to the party.
Yes, I just thought that if I said, hey, I'm doing this thing, he would say, oh, I can do this. And so I operated very assumptively, which often meant that I would erupt, right? Why aren't you helping me? Or you know this big thing is going on. But I never asked him for help. And so I switched my train of thought and I figured out how to have an enrolling conversation with him that would get the desired result. But it wasn't about manipulation. It was about changing the communication and not expecting things that I wasn't willing to ask for.
Wow, an enrolling conversation. Give us a picture of that. What does that look like?
So for me, an enrolling conversation with my spouse, and I give this to my clients that they can use with their spouses too, but it's a 4-step process.
Okay.
So the first step is to share the big vision. So whatever it is, whether it's a business or a goal or a specific project within your business, especially if it's going to affect your family or your spouse, that you share that big vision in a way that it exudes the passion that you want about it. Okay?
That's your responsibility.
Absolutely.
Really, to share the vision.
To share the vision, the outcome,
and the
why.
why behind it. That's
Absolutely. And then, but the second piece is what I consider to be something that most people miss and maybe the most important, and that is a statement of commitment. So for some of us, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I have lots of dreams and ideas, and I'm constantly saying, oh my gosh, I should start this business, or I should go do this project, or I should have this idea, or I should go after this goal. And so I'm constantly talking in positive thinking and positive ideas, but I don't make the commitment. And so once I make a statement of commitment where I say, and I'm committed to this goal, or I'm committed to this business, or I'm committed to this project, then otherwise it just sounds like an idea. So I'm committing to my husband, I'm committing to my kids that I'm going to do it. And sometimes I have to realize that I need to recommit again. And I have to say things like, I know the last time that I said I was going to do something, it didn't quite work out. And so I have to agree. But again, I'm recommitting to the big vision, and I'm making the commitment to him that I'm going to follow through.
Then it's not just an idea. Right. It's and maybe even worse, another idea.
Exactly, too many.
Because there's an abundance, right? And this is one of the ways that people think. And entrepreneurs tend to be very passionate about generating a huge volume of ideas. And so the people that we love and live with are going to hear this constantly. So I think that that's brilliant that you come up with a statement of commitment that shows, okay, this idea is one that I'm going to grab hold of and move forward with, but don't assume that your spouse will understand that unless you make the statement, right?
Exactly. So you have to start with the vision and the passion, but then you have to make the commitment. But even still, that's only step 2. So after you make the statement of commitment, you need to move into the action plan. So I share with my spouse, and I encourage my clients to share with their spouses, what is the action plan that makes it work? So it's not just an idea, but what are the nuts and bolts? What are the details? What are the daily, weekly, and monthly things you're going to do to make it a reality? And if there are pieces that you need your spouse to be involved in, then you directly ask them to be involved in that. If there are action items that they need to be responsible for, or even just support around the house, and that you've got the business part covered, you've got to talk through the action plans. And part of that is the time commitment. What is the time commitment involved? Is there something else that you're giving up to make room for this? Or is it going to be part of your regular day? How is that going to work? So get specific into the details. And that is step number 3.
Oh, wonderful. You just reminded me of something that you taught me years ago, Michelle, and it's been so helpful. Daily, weekly, monthly.
Yes.
Get clear about what tasks or actions need to happen on those time frames, and then it really helps to structure it, especially in the mind of someone who tends to be less ethereal and more grounded. That's a very practical step.
And the truth is that while we may rock our to-do lists, many of the items that we do them on a regular basis, and we need to create a better routine of them. And then they're not a surprise. Oh, I have to do this again. I have to do the laundry again. I have to do the dishes again. We have to feed people again. But the same thing in your business.
A big surprise, right?
Yeah, right? Marketing doesn't just happen once, and so it has to be done on a regular basis. So sharing that plan with your spouse so that they understand the details and the commitment involved can also help them to be more supportive.
Oh, wonderful. You've got a 4th one for us too?
The magic one. This is really my favorite.
Oh boy.
I say that step 2 is my favorite, but step 4 is really my favorite.
Depends on which one you're talking about.
I know. I'm real passionate about them in the time. But step 4 is the question of support. And so you've shared the idea.
Question of support.
You've made your commitment statement. You've shared the individual plan, and then you get to ask the question of support. Because I would do all those other things and then just assume everybody was on board, instead of saying the one magical question, will you support me in this? And asking for it. Now, there's also one more piece to this. If you want to get even deeper, you can ask the question, under what circumstances will you support me in this? Which opens up the dialogue, because maybe there is something that they could add to the conversation, or have you considered this, or hey, I'm completely on board and I'll even do these tasks if this and this and this is done on time, or if this and this and this is done at home. And so that question really opens up the conversation, but it also solidifies the commitment on both sides.
That is beautiful. I've heard it a little different way before too. I think it's the same question basically.
Sure.
What would need to be true in order for you to support me in this?
That's a good one too.
It opens the same kind of a thought process. But the thing I love about that fourth step, Michelle, is that you're making an actual invitation now.
Yes.
And being very clear about what it is that you want.
Yes.
What you're asking for. Because it's not that much fun to move forward in a business venture if you don't have that support.
Yes, absolutely. And my structure my business is differently. My husband works full time, so he's not really involved in the day-to-day of my business. And so my questions of support are more along the lines of things that need to be done at home, or ways that we divide responsibilities, or how we care for the kids, and how he can support me. And sometimes what I need in my action items is, you know what, honey, I don't need you to solve my problems, just say good job. Or just say, I'm proud of you. And so sometimes having those conversations.
That's what support can look like.
Support doesn't necessarily have to be getting things done. It can just be cheerleading you in the things that you're trying to do that matter.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Michelle. That's
My pleasure.
Good stuff. It's great to have people on our team, isn't it? I'm really honored to be on your team. Thanks for being here.